What is going on, you beautiful people? Welcome back to a brand new flipping video. I'm Deathwish, and I'm going to be covering everything to do with Dune Awakening, whether it's reacting to other people's content on Dune Awakening, or all the new content, or even when the game drops, showing you every single tip and trick available, sharing builds, bases, anything like that to do with the game. And I also play other video games, which you can see in my channel down below. Now, this is a video that was uploaded because recently they done the press conference and the creators showcase, where a load of creators went over to the Funcom studios and managed to get hands onto the game. And in this video, we're going to be seeing exactly what they've done, a bit of gameplay. I just released another video with a little bit more gameplay, so we're going to be looking at all, or reacting to all of these creators' footage, or all the footage that we have available, and picking apart little by little what we see. I'm going to react and obviously point out what I can see and hear. And if you see or hear other things that I didn't quite notice in the video, make sure you leave me a comment down below and let me know. And also, how excited are you for Dune Awakening? I am so flipping excited. Like, I mean, 1,000 out of 10. And the character creation's pretty wild, as I've just seen on the screen. Anyway, let's jump into the video. So just to point out, the video is by the Axeman. I'm going to go ahead and hit the subscribe and hit the like, just because the dude is playing Dune. So kudos to him. And if you do want to go over to the channel and watch the original footage, the link is in the description. Make sure you go over there, give a like and a subscribe. And anything, obviously, as well, if you want to hit the like and the subscribe, maybe the notification bell, so every time I release some of these reaction footage or any footage to do with Dune or other games, you'll be the first to know about it. So let's jump in.
Welcome, guys. It is the Axeman here, and
welcome, Axeman.
We're doing something a little bit different. Last week, Funcom flew a bunch of his creators out to Norway to take part in a preview of their new game, Dune Awakening, a new multiplayer survival game based in the Dune universe. They took very good care of us and let us play and record a good 6 to 8 hours of gameplay. We were then given the footage to use how we want. So for this video, I'm going to treat it a little like a story and take you on a journey and show off the game and the shenanigans we got up to. Before we jump into it though, I do want to say a massive thank you to Funcom for this opportunity. They showed us around their office. They showed us how they create the game. We got to meet the team behind it all. They provided us with daily activities and dinners, and it was just amazing. So if you want to go and see some more of that stuff, make sure you follow in the Twitter and the Instagram. I posted a few pictures there. But yeah, just massive thank you to Funcom. You guys are awesome. Now let's jump into it.
This go. It sounds pretty good.
By creating our character. Now the character creator system is pretty good. You've got your options for your hair and your eyes, etc. But you also have sliders to adjust placements and sizes. Now, I didn't play around with that too much, as it doesn't interest me as much, but the woman who was sat next to me spent like a good hour creating their character. For me, though, 10 minutes is all I needed to create this masterpiece. After that, we were asked a few questions that would give our characters some backstory and also what class we were going to pick. Talking about classes real quick, you start with one class, but you can unlock all the skills further into the game, so then you can pretty much create your own class later down the line.
That sounds flipping awesome. So a lot of people here might have played Path of Exile. If you play Path of Exile, you can have one ascendancy, or you can have one ascendancy throughout the game, but you can have so many different ways of playing it. You can almost use any kind of weapon. But the good thing about this is, rather than being locked to that one ascendancy, you've got all the ascendancies. You've got all the skill trees available to you. You're just going to have a limited start, but later on, as you progress, you're going to have to be able to respec and put it into anything you want, really. At least that's what we're hearing.
I'm not going to show any cutscenes in this footage, as I don't want to spoil anything, but a quick cutscene later and we end up in this cave. Now, this is kind of a tutorial cave. You just kind of learn about the movement, your inventory, and also hydration. Now, this is a big, important part. Like other survival games, you don't actually need food. You don't need to eat in this game. It's all about hydration. We learned that the plants are the very basic, and then later in the game, we learn how to get water easier and more efficiently. But we get through that, we exit the cave, and then we learn about harvesting. Again, another really cool way they've done this. Instead of just collecting sticks and rocks and, you know, tying that up together and making a stone axe, we actually make a thing called a cut ray, and you use this to cut through rocks and metals. And doing that, you can obviously gain stone, you can gain metals, but you can also use it to enter places that are blocked off, like this ship just here. Inside this ship, this is where we learn about combat. Dodging, parrying, and learning to take out shields were all on the menu here.
So I think this is really good, and I did mention it in my last video, but if you didn't see the last video, I'm always going to mention this throughout my videos. That I really like the way that you farm minerals, rocks, and everything in this game. Typically, you'd pull out an axe or a pickaxe or whatever it might be, and you'd go up to a tree or a rock and you just smack away and you'd get materials. At least this way, there's actually a mini game, so there's a little bit of skill involved where you'd scan it and you just follow the weak spot trail, which I think is really cool personally. That takes it to another level, and if we're getting little details like that, there's probably going to be many more little things in this game that really evolve the experience. So that is something to really point out. And also, a lot of people in my previous videos did mention that the character models were looking a bit and the graphics were looking a bit Remember, what we are seeing is, like me, our capture cards can only capture up to 1080p, even though we might upload it in 4K. Normally, capture cards only record up to 1080p or a little bit better quality. And then there's a bit rate and there's all of this sort of stuff, depending on how they're obviously recording it. So the quality is not going to be perfect. When you've got the game in your hands, it's going to be a lot better than what you're seeing, even though, to me personally, considering the size of this game, that is 500 square kilometers, and Conan Exile's 54 square kilometers, and that's 500 plus. And the world of Dune is constantly evolving. So they said every couple of weeks or every week or so, the sand is going to be changing and moving around. So it's going to uncover more things. So the game is constantly changing. That is unflipping real. So yeah, with just knowing that and seeing this, I'm excited. What do you think?
With the tutorial now finished, it was time to head into the actual server with the rest of the content creators. We started with the usual, picking up everything you see, harvesting all the rocks, and crafting better armor. I then turned the corner and saw what I thought was an NPC bad guy. So I just started blasting away, and that's when Syntac, who was sat on the computer right next to me, started screaming that he was being shot at. It took us a hot second to figure out, but obviously that was me and him. And turns out we were like the first two players to find each other on the server.
So you can't hurt each other
in the game, but you need to spend, I think it's 1,000 gold to create one of them. So for the time being, as we were all very poor and just starting out, we decided...
Just remember, guys, if you're not part of the Discord, the link is in the description. If you're not part of the Twitch, the link's in the description. When this game drops and we can make a clan or a guild, I will be making the death squad on Dune, and we can all build together, make a giant city together, do some of the most craziest things we could possibly think of in Dune Awakening, share ideas, and try and be ahead of the curve. So we are like the alpha guild in the game. So if you want to jump in and be a part of that, make sure you join the Discord, go over to the Dune section, just say what you want to say. Share some more juicy information. If you get some information that we don't know about, share it in there. I'll react to it. I'll give you a shout out. Let's jump back in.
Decided to just create a party together and just hang out. As we're exploring, I did stumble upon a real NPC enemy camp and started taking them out. I just have to say, the gunplay in this game feels so crisp. I don't know if it's the speed, the sound,
it's good to hear,
back on the gun, but god damn, I just love it so much. I was blasting away when I thought this guy just here was an enemy boss or something, and turns out it was just another player, and for some reason everyone is just so quick just to stop blasting each other. It was now time for our first sand crossing. Now, the sandworms roam the lands and will attack anything that makes a sound, and this was our first experience, and it was like nothing I felt before. Literally, me and Syntac were both shouting and screaming like little girls as we tried to run across and make this into one piece. And that's when we saw the sandworm for the very first time. It was a little way away.
Here we go. Sandworm threat. This bar shows the vibrations you are making on open sand. Vibrations which will attract sandworms. The closer the worm is, the more sensitive it is to vibrations. Take the utmost care crossing the open desert. Do we have to do what you see in the likes of the movies or even reading the books, where you have to kind of do just funky sidestepping, backstepping, just to make it seem a bit odd, funky? Is that what we've got to do? We've got to make it seem like the sand shifting rather than you actually walking on it? Or is it later on you learn an ability which makes it so you can move on the sand a little bit easier? Or are we just going to wait till we got the ornithopters? I think I said that right. And we just fly over the sand. I'm wondering, but let's see if we can see the sandworm.
But just seeing it in person and knowing that it's just hiding under the sand, it was such a crazy, cool experience to see.
So we see that meter.
Later find out from the devs that this little initial first part of the map, the sandworms aren't as aggressive they give you kind of a chance to escape. Like, they'll pop out of the ground. You know, you've got a chance.
Oh, wow.
Later on in the game, though, they get really fast and there's very little warning. So that just makes me even more excited to see some of these nastier, more aggressive sandworms, because god damn, they're so cool. Next up, it was time to build our bases. The building was actually pretty decent. It took me a hot minute to understand it, but once you do, it's all smooth sailing. I didn't go crazy with the building, as I thought this was going to be just like a little temp base.
So I want to say this, guys, if you haven't seen any of the base building in any of their games, whether it be Conan Exiles, obviously this, the base building in Conan Exiles is incredible. If you guys want to see me build bases over there to show you what it's like, then we can bring it over so you can get a better understanding. I don't mind going over Conan Exiles and trying a load of things out for you guys to see, but let me know in the comments down below. If you don't want me to see, then obviously I won't go ahead and do it. But the building in this game is really good compared to other survival games, because you actually have to think of it in an architectural way where you have to have it so the building doesn't just collapse. You can't just build crazy like Fortnite. You have to have pillars everywhere that support it. So be careful. Make sure you've got many pillars on the ground or many foundations, because they might destroy, or whoever is attacking you might destroy a pillar, and it takes out a quarter of your base. So you need to be quite strategic for how you build your base, how you build your walls, how you build your pillars, and everything like that. And we do know that the base building here is going to be a lot more different than base building we've seen in other games, but it does look flipping stunning. So let me know your thoughts on the building in this game to what you've seen so far.
Turns out we stay here for the whole time. So I just kind of created this long little box building, added a generator, and if I'm not mistaken, the generator stops your base decaying and protects it from raids and maybe sandworms. I forget if that's a thing. But anyways, I waited for Syntax to create his hideous base, and I have to say this is the first time I've seen Syntax make a very, very bad base. But once that was done, it was time to make the blood extractor. Now, if you've watched the movies, you will know what this does. Pretty much in Dune, all liquid can be turned into drinking water. And yes, that includes blood. So now we can kill the NPCs and then drain their blood and either drink it or purify that blood into drinking water. As I was busy with the enemy camp, Syntax actually found Xavi, who was actually sat next to us as well. He had also spawned pretty close, so he joined the party. And together, we decided to take on this big enemy camp that was right next to us on the side of the cliff. We scaled the cliff and got to work, and I have to say, I did maybe 90% of this camp solo, as the other two just struggled to grapple their way all the way up to the top. You could have just walked all the way around, but we wanted to look cool, and it turns out I'm the only cool one in this party. The gunfighting, and again, the gunplay, bro. I love it so much. We ended up looting the place.
It does look crisp.
All the blood for our enemies, and we did get a little blueprint for some armor, but we couldn't actually use it yet until we progressed further down into the story. So the game also offers you little like side quests, just kind of the basic ones where you just collect an amount of resources. And the first one we got was just to collect some stone and to deliver it to a location. So we decided just to kind of get that done real quick. It's a good thing we did though, because turns out where we were delivering it to was one of these like friendly town places.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's the technical term that you call them, but right.
That's pretty cool to hear that there is like friendly towns and stuff, just like Conan, where you can go and trade and hire people. You get workers and stuff in games like these that can come and fight for you. You have your own army. And it's not only just you as players. On Conan, you had your own pets, your own mounts. In this case, you get your own vehicles, and you should get your own soldiers as well that fight for you. And then the towns are probably going to be quite in depth, especially considering the scale of this map. So it's nice to hear and see that we're getting all of this info. And he is really dehydrated. You need to drink some more water, amigo.
I cannot think what they are actually called. But you're not allowed to carry weapons in there. You can't attack anyone. But you can buy and sell stuff and do like small quests. I like that this is a thing. It kind of gives the desert a bit more life. And I could see when a full server is using these kind of town hubs, I guess maybe we're going to call them. There's just going to be people coming and go, and it's just going to bring even more life to a desert that, not much is going on sometimes. After the little break in town, we decided to take on another enemy camp. This time, Syntax got himself killed, so it was down to me again to take care of this camp. And this one was actually really hard. There were dudes hiding everywhere, around every corner. They were just jumping us.
The character models and the gunplay actually looks really good. Now, the people do look spongy, but if they weren't spongy, then it would probably be way too easy, especially considering PvP. But we do know that in the world of Dune, you do get like an overshield, a shield that covers your body. So this might be the reasoning is you've got to penetrate the shield before you can penetrate the body, meaning that if you get a better shield or better armor, you'll be able to sustain a lot more, and that goes towards the enemies as well. If it's anything to go off of Conan, you've got some incredible dungeons where you've got traps, you've got mazes, you've got all them sort of things, and we can expect it in Dune, but scaled up like the game size by 10 times. Honestly, incredible.
And I hadn't got used to switching between ranged and melee attacks yet. We did get told it's going to be important to use a mixture of ranged, melee, and your abilities the further you progress in the game, because there's going to be a mixture of different types of enemies, some with shields, some that don't. But yeah, I was getting good with the gunplay, and I did single-handedly take out this whole base. Our next objective was actually a main story mission, and I don't want to spoil this, but pretty much me, Syntac, and Zava, we headed over there together to get it done. And as we finished...
Oh, wow, you can do story missions together. That sounds flipping epic. And they look epic as well. It's not just desert that we were expecting to see, which we expect from the world of Dune, it just being open, vast deserts. No, we've actually got what I believe are the dungeon types, but this is a story. That's cool.
Aaron, who was also hanging out with us, entered the cave as we were leaving. And again...
They thought it was AI.
For even asking questions. It's just, I don't know, it makes me laugh every time. Anyways, we invited him to our party, and we left him to go and do the big main mission himself. We all then returned back to our little bases, and just kind of spent a little bit of time progressing the story and grinding, getting some more materials and stuff. The next big goal, however, was creating a still suit. Again, if you know any Dune lore, then you'll know what this is, but for those that don't, it's the suit that can turn sweat and other bodily liquids into drinking water. So pretty much the more you move around, the more liquid it produces. This would be huge for us, as we were always dehydrated. Now, this is mainly because on our server, it was always daytime. It wasn't meant to be. It wasn't until later on one of the devs realized that we haven't actually seen nighttime yet. Apparently, they used the server for something else before us, and they needed it to be like daytime the whole time. So, yeah, we do get to see some nighttime later on, but for now, we're just struggling in the blazing hot desert.
It's cool to see, guys, that you can get your base and your armor pretty early on. What we are seeing by looking at the base here, though, is we need to make a 4x4 base, and don't make it lengthwise like this if we're very limited with materials. Try and make a box-shaped base so we can move around it a little bit easier. I mean, we can still move around what he's built here, but I personally think it would be easier if we make a box, a square, or even a diamond, so it's harder to attack or anything like that. Depending, I don't know what the PvP situation's like earlier on. I believe it's when you get further into the desert than you can be doing PvP. Maybe you got to reach a certain level till PvP is active, or maybe it's a certain time PvP can be acted, or even a certain server. If there's multiple servers, PvE and PvP, I will have a character on both. So don't worry if you don't like to PvP. I will be on a PvE server, and I'll be on a PvP, just depending how I'm feeling on the day. I'll probably be starting off on PvP until I get beat. Then I'll be full-time on PvE, and then when we're feeling confident again, we go back to PvP. But yeah, it's cool to see that we're getting still suits pretty early on. We can build pretty early on, and we could do loads of fun activities pretty early on. I wonder how long it takes till we actually get our first vehicle.
With the still suits equipped, it was now time to do our very first survey of the area. Now, this is a main core
climbing
play. You need to reach a high place and shoot a probe into the sky, and it will
The climbing in Conan yet again is fantastic, but in Conan you had to climb to the tallest mountain to get some incredible climbing gear, so you could climb with much more ease. I'm not really seeing the stamina. We are seeing the stamina by looking over at the far side where the heart rate looking thing is. The stamina is going the more he's climbing, but the climbing is probably one of the best mechanics in the game, at least on Conan.
All the things that are going on. This is going to be very important later.
This looks really bad.
There's a thing called the Deep Desert, I think it's called, or something like that. This is a PvP zone, but it's essentially just a massive, vast desert with lots of...
That was lucky.
Resources, caves and stuff. I can't remember the exact size of it. They did tell us. It is massive. But yeah, this changes every single week. So all the locations of dungeons...
There you go, guys. It changes every single week, the game. So yes, 500 plus square kilometers compared to Conan Exiles 54, and it changes every single flipping week. That is nuts. I don't know how they're pulling this off, but It did start as a few amount of people with the beta. Now there's tens of thousands of people playing the current beta, and I never got access, and probably many of you never got access. But yeah, that is insane. The game's basically fully released, so it's going to be coming really, really soon, because as well, in the last video that I looked at, the NDA apparently obviously got lifted for this. It means they're in a place for press to see it, people to see it. So it's under review, like anything in this world. Once it's under review, as soon as you get the licensing or the approvals, that's it. The game's out to the public. Someone did say in the comments it's coming out in April. Is it coming out in April? Is it coming out sooner? All I can say is wish list it. I will have the link in the description. I also have this person's link in the description if I didn't mention earlier. So yeah, let's carry on.
Sources will swap every single week. So what you need to do is you need to head into the deep desert and survey it every week. But if you don't like to do that, you can actually buy and sell maps. So I could go into the desert and survey maybe 80% of the desert and then sell that map to someone that maybe doesn't want to spend time doing the survey, just wants to get in there, find the dungeon, get some resources, and either use that, sell that, whatever they want to do.
That's amazing, guys. You can go into the desert, survey it, and just have your full-time job as a surveyor and then selling that map. So some means you don't have to do everything in this game. You can either be a builder, a surveyor, a fighter. It's just meaning you're not limited to one role or where one person has to do everything. This is where the beauty of a guild. Join that Discord.
You can make some big profits. So I don't know, I really, really like this idea. I think I will do a lot of surveying, sell the maps, and then use that to like buy better guns and armor and stuff. But anyways, yeah, me and Syntac apparently are very bad at climbing, and it took us way too long to get to the top. But yeah, in the end, yeah, we did it. It looks easy, right? So next up, we needed to go and find a crashed fallen ship and get some resources from it. And as we
zoom out,
we actually fell onto a cliffside. Now, the game has hundreds of cliffs. For some reason, the one cliff that we fell on also had a dude on there, Miola. No idea why he was here and how he got here. He didn't even notice us. We were shouting across the room we were in, and he just was so oblivious that we kind of, you know, we were dancing around with him. We just left him alone in the end. I mean, classic Miola, right? But anyways, yeah, we made it to the ship, and these were more or less the same as an enemy camp, just more enclosed space. They did have this really neat feature that some of the doors you could actually cut open. We actually thought that we'd done with the ship, but then I found the door, and the thing I like about it, it's not like there was a big, huge marker.
That's amazing.
Telling us like, hey, you can open this. It was more like I had to just kind of walk into it and check to see if it was cut up.
Good.
Is that a word? I don't know. I just found it really immersive and just really freaking cool. So we got through that, and we did actually find some good loot from this place, including...
See, that's one thing I do not really like about modern games. There's a lot of backpacking. It seems in here... there's a lot of go out and explore, discover, enjoy, and it's constantly going to be evolving. So even those who have been playing the beta for the last year and a bit can't tell you everything because they haven't explored everything. And even the last video, the person had been playing it in the beta for over 400 hours, a beta for 400 hours. I could not stress enough that I've never even picked up a beta and thought I'll play it more than a couple of hours, let alone 400 flipping hours, knowing that you're probably going to get reset at the end of the beta, which is in flipping insane. But yeah, 400 hours in a beta. The game has had over 10,000 people in a beta. So imagine the work and the polishing that has been done on this game. So all of the haters that are disliking this, they have done the best sequencing of trial and error anyone can ever do. And it's going to be coming out really soon.
A rifle gun and also a better pistol.
Not got YouTube Premium.
Eve, I was a minor.
If someone subscribes to me and becomes a member during this video, I'll get YouTube Premium.
I decided, instead of being the hunted...
And as we were heading back, we had our first taste of the nighttime. This was where a new event could happen. I forget what they're called, but there's this ship that flies around the desert and it's pretty much looking for prisoners. And if they spot you, they drop a bunch of guys down and they will kick your butt. Not really something you want to mess with until later in the game, but we did kind of witness them dropping down full,
oh wow,
like rifles, and they just peppered you, and it's not a good time. But yeah, anyways, we returned home and crafted some better things to prepare for our first taste of a dungeon. I won't go into too much detail on these because they are essentially just your standard dungeon, but they do look really cool. They have like the foliage and just different like assets in here that's a really nice change of scenery, and I don't know, it just looks kind of really, really cool. These are actually pretty long dungeons, and they are filled to the brim of enemies. And I did have to rescue Syntac as they completely overpowered him, and I had to rush through and just kind of take care of all of them. For some reason, a lot of the dudes in here were like half naked, but I don't know. Maybe there's some lore to that. I don't know. I still thought it was kind of funny though. Oh, one thing I do want to mention though. As we left the dungeon, as we completed it, Miola entered, and because we'd actually killed all the enemies, he had a free run of the dungeon. Apparently this is a thing that you can do. It's made, it's intentional for this. So you could actually sneak into the dungeon when other people are doing it. And
oh, wow.
The end and get a share of the loot. Or you could just get really super lucky and find the dungeon literally as someone's just left. I know some people might not like that, but it's kind of just different ways to play the game, especially when there's like a lot of dungeons and the server's really populated. I think like if you just get lucky and don't have to waste any ammo, that could be a really cool thing. But anyways, the main reason that we were doing this dungeon was to get parts to make our very first vehicle. And this is where the fun really began.
So you do dungeons to get parts to make vehicles. Nice. Just as I can imagine Conan Exiles, you do dungeons to get unique weapons and armors and better armors and weapons, etc. That's flipping cool.
Was to get parts to make our very first vehicle, and this is where the fun really began. It did take us a hot minute to get all the stuff and things, but eventually we were able to build a sand bike. These things were awesome. We can now drive instead of walking, which means not being thirsty all the time and also being able to outspeed the sandworms. We decided we wanted to test these things out, so we drove over to Aaron, who was a little way away across the map. Just the way that these things handled and just looked and just sounded, it was so sick. And it's the first
That it looks so good.
I felt a big step up in terms of progression. But yeah, we made it to Aaron's base and waited at his front door to let us in. This is where we get a little silly. He opens the door and we both try and squeeze into his base, running him over in the process. Once he lets us in, he actually had to go and do a little interview with one of the devs, so his character was now AFK. And this is where we find out that if you back up into a character, they kind of like stick to the bike. Now, I'm not sure if this is something the devs want to fix, but at the time we decided just to make use of it. Whilst he was AFK, I kidnapped his character and drove him out into the desert. I wanted him to return to his PC like all confused on why he was out in the middle of the desert. Unfortunately,
look at that moon.
Character to like
moons.
The bike, he was like stuck there. And before we knew it, he'd actually returned. He did find it really, really funny though, so, you know, this is all in good faith.
Oh, wow.
So I do want to just say the devs also kind of thought this was funny, that we were just, like, kidnapping people and driving them around, so no one's, like, getting in trouble for this right now. As we were playing around with the bikes, we did actually work out how to get him onto the passenger seat as well, so he did manage to actually sit on the bike as I took him back home. I decided I wanted to have a little fun with my bike, so I went back to my base and created a giant ramp. I wanted to see how much air we could get with our new bikes. As I was doing that and having some fun, I heard Syntax screaming and shouting. He drove out of the map and fallen into quicksand and lost everything. So once again, it was my time to save him and help him out. He got onto my bike and we journeyed into Sandworm.
Oh, look at it. Just look at it.
To find it without being eaten by a sandworm. So I returned home and pressed on with making things to move to the new part of the map. So at this point, we didn't have much time left as we had spent a lot of time just messing around on the bikes and stuff. But I decided I wanted to venture up north just to see if I can uncover the new part of the map. I wanted to survey the area and just kind of get a vision of how big this next part was going to be. I tried my very hardest to climb all of these giant ass rocks. Every one I got to the top of wasn't tall enough. And I'm going to say, I think I spent maybe 30 to 40 minutes to actually get one that worked, but we got it done and, you know, it uncovered all the map for us. Legit, just as
let's have a look, zoom out more.
Coming around to everyone and spawning in the, I can never pronounce it, the ornithopter, the copter thing with like the flappy wings.
I'm not the only one.
Wanted to
or faunacopter. Is that right?
I was like, yes, of course I want to. If you've seen these in the movies, like, you will see how sick they are. Like, they're so freaking cool, man.
Wow.
Like, I was just so excited to play with them. So, yeah, we got one spawned in and we hopped into it. And I just have to say, like, the movement on these, it was so easy to get the hang of. it just works so seamlessly. Switching between just...
Oh my god.
Then going into the dive bomb mode. I figured out that we could do barrel rolls. We could do like front flips, back flips. You could drive it kind of upside down as well. Just a really good, solid experience.
That's so cool.
A lot of fun with this. But then, of course, me and the boys had to try all the dumb shit. So we were trying to like fly them into each other. We were trying to land them on top of each other. Just kind of the general shit that we'd been up to. It was a lot of fun. I then didn't realize, but I used my copter so much that I actually ran out of gas. And I ended up falling to the bottom of this chasm. Like, I went all the way to like the bottom of the map. So now it was time for Syntax to...
Just to point out, they probably have God mode. So that's probably why your faunacopter didn't blow up then.
Now it was time for Syntax to save me. It took him a while, but he did find me. And instead, because this is how we've been the whole time, instead of me sitting inside and riding it, I decided to stand on top of it, and he was going to fly me out that way. And this was really cool until he decided to do a spin, and then I plummeted all the way to the bottom of the map again. There we have it. That was our little adventure.
Look at that base build.
There is so much more that we have to discover and uncover, and I just cannot wait to play some more of this. The end game stuff sounds really sick. Really looking forward to experiencing that. But for now, I just want to, again, thank Funcom for flying us out to Norway, allowing us to play this game. It was an absolute blast. It was so amazing.
Wow.
But if you are interested in seeing some more of this game, don't forget to like and subscribe. I feel like when this comes out, I will be streaming this a lot. I might even get some of the boys to hang out with us when we do that. But again, yeah, thank you, Funcom, and thank you guys for hanging out today. I will catch you all in a bit. See you later.
So guys, make sure you go over and subscribe to the Axeman. Give him a like as well if you enjoyed this video. And the link will be in the description. Hopefully you enjoyed this. Make sure you wishlist it on Steam. And I'll see you in the next Dune video or any other video that you might watch in a bit. Death Squad, peace.